Shocking truth, new evidence in Madeleine McCann case reopens at midnight. Will justice prevail? The clock ticked relentlessly towards midnight, a heartbeat echoing in the silence of the news studio. Excitement crackled through the air, thick and electric, like static before a storm. Eyes were glued to the screen as the words "new evidence" flashed across the ticker tape. This wasn't just a rumor, this was a desperate plea for truth. The world held its breath, waiting for a revelation that could change everything. How could it be? After years of grief and unanswered questions, the saga was reignited with the flick of a switch. Just then, a photograph emerged. A darkened alley in Praia da Luz, the site where joy once bloomed turned to shadows of despair. The streets looked familiar yet foreign, every corner whispering secrets lost to time. A shadow darted across the screen. Was it a ghost of the past, or a hint of hope? Eyebrows furrowed, speculation swirled. The leading investigator, a once lauded expert now clouded by missteps, had been found with files tucked away under his floorboards. Heavy-duty tape. Duct tape. Evidence? Cover-up? The questions thrashed through the crowd's mind. Could this be the piece that finally fit? Tensions rose as voices overlapped, the audience unsure whether to cheer or gasp. "It's time for justice!" someone yelled in the back. Their eyes were wild, filled with an urgency that screamed for resolution. Muffled whispers echoed, "What if she's alive?" Amid the chaos, a reporter's voice broke through, compelling and firm. "Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads-up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With that, the urgency rebounded back. A dog barked in the distance, the sound twisted with fear as news anchors leaned in closer, their voices hushed. The undeniable truth of a child's laughter lost echoed in everyone's minds, mixing with the gritty details of despair. Suddenly, someone yelled, "Look! That's her! That's Madeleine!" A collective gasp surged through the room like a tidal wave. The screen flashed, but it quickly cut to black, leaving the viewers engulfed in uncertainty. Who had appeared in that grainy image? Was it a miracle or another cruel trick? Heartbeats thumped in the darkness, the air thick with anticipation. Midnight had arrived, but the tale was far from over. What had come to light was only the beginning, and the real question loomed larger than ever: could justice finally prevail? The studio lights flickered back on, drowning the audience in a harsh glow. Panic rippled through the crowd as they leaned closer to their screens. The name Madeleine McCann hung in the air, heavy and fraught with desperation. Murmurs cascaded down the rows, questions spiraling wildly, each one more urgent than the last. The haunting image had vanished into darkness, but the shadow it cast remained. Footsteps echoed down the corridor outside, a parade of urgency. The leading investigator, Alex Palmer, a man once steeped in accolades, now stepped into the light, his face drawn tight with tension. It was as if the very act of standing before the cameras was an act of penance. "Folks, we have to temper our excitement," he began, raising a hand to fend off the rising fervor. "What we just saw is a fragment, a whisper of possibility. The photo, is it made up? A trick of the mind? Or is it a glimpse into a world we hope is out there, waiting for us to find it?" The audience hung on his every word, a throbbing pulse of anticipation. The moment held the weight of 1,000 stories, each filled with longing and fear. Was that really her? A spark ignited in the hearts of parents and advocates alike. But was it merely a mirage, dancing just beyond their reach? Suddenly, a new figure stepped forward, skin glistening with a sheen of sweat. Sarah Blake, a journalist known for her tenacity, took the mic from Alex, her voice steady and unwavering. "This time, we will follow the leads, every single one," she asserted, her eyes flaring with determination. "The evidence found in Alex's apartment, it's more than just a haphazard collection of files. We're talking about taped conversations, undisclosed theories, and connections that could break this case wide open." Gasps filled the room, weaving through the crowd like vines claiming a staircase. "Connections?" people murmured, barely able to contain their disbelief. Each connection painted a potential path toward justice or a descent into deeper chaos. Lines of tension creased Sarah's brow. "We've identified a witness who might shed more light," she continued, her urgency contagious. "Someone who claimed to have seen a girl matching Maddie's description near a hotel, just days before she vanished. We only need to know, was that her?" The crowd surged forward, a collective yearning to grasp the faintest glimmer of hope. The question loomed larger: how could something so dark weave itself alongside the spark of possibility? Conflict simmered in the air, tightening everyone's chests with the weight of fear and hope intertwined. Then, abruptly, the screen behind them crackled to life. A video feed flickered, revealing a grainy recording of a shadowy figure moving through the same alley where the earlier photo had been taken. The figure paused, glancing over its shoulder, obscured by darkness yet ubiquitous in the audience's mind. Could it be him? "Who is that?" a voice shouted from the audience, a raw edge of desperation breaking through. "Whoever it is," Alex said, his tone hardening, "they might hold the key to everything." Suddenly, the lights in the studio dimmed, and murmurs rose to frantic levels. Was the video a breadcrumb or a trap? And as silence draped itself slowly over the crowd, one word echoed through the stillness, a question precariously balanced between dread and hope. Why? What lay ahead remained hidden like shadows in the dark. Would the next discovery throw them further into chaos or bring them one step closer to unraveling the truth? The night had just begun, and with each tick of the clock, the stakes grew higher. Would justice prevail, or would it vanish into the shadows once again? The studio buzzed with electric energy, each heartbeat syncing with the mounting suspense. Alex's brow furrowed deeper. He struggled to maintain composure in a world teetering on the brink of revelation and despair. He turned to Sarah, who was staring at the screen with wide, unblinking eyes. "That video, it changes everything," she whispered, barely audible over the murmurs of the crowd, but Alex heard it, and his stomach twisted. It was true. The shadowy figure could either be a ghost from the past or a herald of the truth they'd all been seeking. As the lights flickered back on, the camera zoomed in on the anxious faces of the audience. People were leaning forward, fingers clenched, lost in their own thoughts. Parents recalled their own children, advocates wondered about the implications. Everyone was wrestling with the same questions, spiraling into dark corners of doubt and dread. "Sarah, we need to mobilize a team to trace the origin of that footage," Alex urged, his voice low yet urgent. A ripple of determination propelled him forward. "If this is a lead, we can't waste a second. We owe it to her." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. She remembered the witness, the initial reports. What if that figure is connected to the witness we found? If they saw a girl who might know, it's too much to hope for. Her voice fell, despair creeping back in. "No, we must hope," Alex countered, his intensity catching the eyes of others around them, a shared nod of agreement igniting within the crowd. "We'll trace every detail, every lead. We can't let this slip away." We won. Suddenly, the bright lights dimmed for a moment before resetting to their harsh glare. A loud bang echoed from backstage, followed by chaos. People gasped, turning as the sound of a clattering object reverberated. A crew member rushed on stage, visibly shaken, a cell phone in hand. "We just got a text alerting us of a possible sighting. Police are on their way to the location now," he announced, breathless with urgency. The audience exploded. Gasps turned to excited screams, panic mixed with hope bobbing through the air like a buoy in stormy seas. Alex shot a glance at Sarah. This was the moment they had both feared and yearned for. "Where?" Sarah asked, her pulse quickening. "We need to go." "Just outside the studio," he said, urgency propelling him forward. They think it could be connected. With a shared glance of conviction, Sarah and Alex knew they couldn't wait any longer. They pushed through the throngs of people, hearts thudding wildly against their ribs. It felt like sprinting into the unknown, each step thunderous in the ominous silence that surrounded them. As they burst through the doors, the cool night air hit them like a wave, and bright police lights flooded their vision. Officers were swarming the scene, their faces illuminated with confusion and determination. One shouted orders into a radio while another scoured the ground, eyes darting anxiously. "What do we do?" Sarah gasped, breathless from adrenaline and fear. "Keep your eyes open for the girl," Alex shouted, scanning the shadows that dared to loom just beyond the lights, as if the night was clutching secrets tightly in its grip. But as they pressed further, a different kind of tension began to coil within them. What if this lead was nothing more than smoke and mirrors? Each second that ticked by raised the stakes like a high-stakes game of poker. Straining against the crowd, Alex spotted something glinting in the dirt. He knelt and picked it up, a small charm, heart-shaped and engraved with a name. Maddie. Time stopped. Barely managing to breathe, Alex and Sarah exchanged horrified glances. How? Just how did this get here? The pounding of his heart echoed in his ears. They were on the precipice of something monumental. But as they turned to tell the officers, a cold wind rustled through, chilling their spine. Darkness loomed around them, and softly repeating in the shadows seemed to echo a single question: what had they truly uncovered? With urgency in every fiber of their being, they had only one shot to find out. But would they be ready for whatever came next? The air was thick with tension, wrapping around Alex and Sarah like a heavy shroud. They stood frozen, heartbeats echoing in their ears as they processed the gravity of the charm in Alex's hand. Maddie. It felt impossible, yet here it was, an undeniable link to the girl they had spent countless hours searching for. Do the officers know? Sarah's voice quivered, a mix of hope and dread surfacing. I don't know, but they need to, Alex replied, urgency coursing through him. He turned to face the officers, who were still busy coordinating the chaos. Hey! We found something. The officers all paused, heads snapping in their direction. A mix of hope and skepticism played across their faces. One of them, a tall man with a furrowed brow, approached cautiously. What is it? He asked, eyeing the charm in Alex's palm. It's a charm. It has her name on it, Alex hurriedly explained, showing them the engraved surface. We think it's connected to the sighting. The officer's expression shifted, a flicker of interest igniting in his eyes. Where did you find this? Just over there, Alex gestured to the ground where he picked it up. We need to act quickly. There's a chance something big is happening. Stay here, the officer commanded before rushing back to confer with his colleagues, a sense of urgency washing over the scene. As they waited, Alex felt the weight of the charm pressing against his palm, as if it carried the weight of all their dreams intertwined with fears. The reality of the situation crashed over him. If Maddie was alive and nearby, what would they do? What if they found her but it wasn't the moment they hoped for? Sarah's eyes mirrored his anxiety but also sparked with determination. Do you think we can really find her? After all this time? A knot formed in Alex's throat. They had always kept hope alive, despite the darkness surrounding it. We have to believe we can, he replied firmly, unwittingly drawing others nearer. Around them, the crowd murmured uneasily, faces shifting from eagerness to concern as the situation escalated. The reality of loss loomed larger each passing minute. Suddenly, gunmetal blue police vehicles roared onto the scene, tires crunching against gravel. Officers poured out, uniforms crisp and ready. Alex's stomach twisted, time was slipping through their fingers like sand. Where's the witness? One officer barked, sprinting toward the group. Right here. Sarah shouted, raising her hand. We need to talk to them. They might know something. But the officer only nodded and continued his frantic search. It seemed as though chaos was breeding more uncertainty than clarity. Then, the crowd erupted in gasps. A woman stumbled forward, disheveled and wide-eyed, darting toward the police, fear etched across her features. I have information. I saw her. The ripple of whispers turned into a tidal wave as eyes turned towards her. Alex felt goosebumps rise on his arms. Could this be a mirage or a breakthrough? Stand back. A police officer shouted, creating space for the woman. Saw who? Another officer asked, pushing through the throng to get closer. Maddie. She cried, raising her hands. I saw her. She's alive. I saw her last night. Alex's heart thundered in his chest, a mixture of disbelief and wild hope crashing over him. This wasn't supposed to happen. Where? He barely managed to whisper, but the woman shrank back as if the weight of her words was too heavy to bear. I need, she gasped, shaking her head. Everything felt like it was electrifying, bursting at the seams with potential. In the midst of swirling anxiety, Alex's gaze locked onto the dark edges of shadows surrounding them. What lurked beyond the floodlights? Who was pulling the strings in this dizzying game of fate? Help us, Sarah urged, her voice softening. Please. The woman hesitated, darting her eyes around as though something invisible threatened to drag her into the night again. I don't know if I should. There are people watching. Alex's breath hitched. No, it couldn't end like this. Please, just tell us. We can't lose her again. Silence enveloped them, a heavy shroud of dread amplifying every heartbeat. What secrets were buried in the dark? As the night deepened, they were standing on the edge of a revelation that felt terrifyingly close yet frighteningly out of reach. Would they unlock the truth behind Maddie's fate or sink into despair once more? The shimmering glimpse of hope flickered, but it would take every ounce of courage they had left to follow it. Would they be brave enough to step into the darkness? The clock was ticking. Please, just tell us, Alex urged again, his voice rising over the low murmur of the crowd. The weight of the woman's hesitation pressed against his chest like a vice. It felt as if the air itself was alive with unanswered questions, swirling around them. I saw her, but, the woman stuttered, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting something or someone to come creeping from the shadows. You don't understand, I can't go back there. Back where? Sarah pressed, stepping closer, her eyes wide with desperation. We can help you. We just need to know where she is. A flicker of defiance sparked in the woman's demeanor, and she took a step back. You don't know what they're capable of. They'll hurt her if they find out I talked. Alex's heart sank. This wasn't a simple matter of finding help. There was danger lurking in the darkness, menacing and real. He reached out, trying to convey hope through the tension that consumed them. If we can find Maddie, we can protect her. Just tell us where to look. The woman's breath quickened, almost as if she could see the ghosts of her fears rising menacingly behind Alex and Sarah. They watch this place always, she whispered, her voice dropping to a trembling hush. They know more than you think. Then help us expose them. Sarah pleaded, pushing the urgency into her tone. Tell the officers. Together, we can do this. Visibly shaken by the crowd gathering, the woman looked around frantically again before shaking her head. They won't believe you. They'll think I'm crazy. Just like before. Chaos rippled through the crowd, anxious whispers becoming louder. The officers, still trying to control the situation, moved closer. The tall officer who had initially approached them returned, determination carved into his jaw. Ma'am, we need you to step away from the crowd and tell us I know where she is. She blurted out suddenly, cutting him off, her voice raw with fear. But I can't just give it up. It's not safe. Alex felt the world spin. The truth was dangerously close, yet so far away. What do we need to do? He pleaded, eyes locked onto hers, willing her to read the urgency in his gaze. I'll write it down. Meet me away from here. The woman's voice faltered, but resolve began to set in. Before Alex could respond, she turned and ran, disappearing into the night, lost behind a barrier of flashing lights and searching eyes. Stop! An officer shouted, but it was too late. She was gone. Did she just leave? Sarah gasped, incredulity peeling back layers of hope. The officer's brow knotted in frustration. Get in the car. We're going after her, he growled, leading the way toward the police vehicles. Alex felt a burning surge of determination. They couldn't let this opportunity slip away. They had a name, a connection, and now, a glimpse of Maddie's whereabouts. But as they hurried through the chaos, doubt crept into his mind. What if they were too late? What if the darkness claimed her again? The car doors slammed, and as they sped off into the night, the adrenaline coursed through him, electrifying his nerves. The city lights blurred past, swallowing them into the unknown. Do you think we can find her? Sarah asked, her voice a mere whisper in the frantic rush. I have to believe we can, Alex responded, but the weight of uncertainty hung between them. They were plunging into a perilous chase, one that could lead to answers or plunge them deeper into danger. As they tore through the streets, shadows flickered in the corners of his mind. Who was watching? What were they up against? Deep down, he knew that crossing into this darkness came with a steep price. But if it meant seeing Maddie again, he was ready. The only question was, would they find her before it was too late, and as the vehicle sped toward the unknown, the ticking clock echoed loudly in his mind, urging them onward. What revelations awaited them in the dark? The car screeched around the corner, tires skidding against the slick pavement, sending a shudder through Alex's body. Sarah clutched the seat, her knuckles white, and the officer driving grimaced, eyes locked on the road ahead. They were running on adrenaline, urgency pulsing through the air like electricity. Every second felt like an eternity, stretching out as they fought against time. Where do you think she went? Sarah finally asked, her voice barely louder than a murmur, fear flirting with disbelief. Somewhere safe, Alex replied, though even he wasn't convinced. They needed answers. They needed to catch up to her, to unravel the threads of this mystery before it slipped through their fingers again. The officer glanced quickly at them, sweat beading at his brow. She could be heading back to her people. If she thinks she is being chased. Are they dangerous? Sarah cut in, her eyes darting to Alex as if silently asking for reassurance. Most likely, he admitted, looking out into the blurred lights of the passing city. His mind flooded with questions. Who were they? What did they want with Maddie? Suddenly, the officer slammed on the brakes. Look! He shouted, jerking a thumb toward the side of the street where a figure darted into an alley. It was her, the woman. Go! Go! Alex urged, heart racing as they quickly spilled out of the car. They followed her into the shadows, the alley swallowing them whole as the ambient noise of the city faded behind them. Wait! He called, desperation threading his voice. We just want to help. The woman halted momentarily, glancing back at them, fear etched across her features. You don't understand. She gasped, her breath ragged. You can't help her, it's too late. Why? Sarah pressed, closing the distance between them. What has happened to Maddie? Before the woman could respond, footsteps echoed in the alleyway, heavy and menacing. Their hearts jumped in unison, terror slicing through the already tense air. Get down! The officer barked, pushing the woman behind him. Alex and Sarah instinctively crouched low, peering out into the dim light. Dark figures emerged, blocking the far end like shadows materializing from a nightmare. There's no way out, one of them said, voice gravelly and deliberate. You shouldn't have followed her. The weight of danger pressed down, suffocating. Alex's instincts screamed at him to flee, but the anxiety about Maddie's safety rooted him to the spot. If you do anything to her, Alex began, voice shaky, but the words trailed off at the harsh laughter that followed. They had to act, and fast. Alex's mind raced as he scanned the alley looking for escape routes. The clump of figures began advancing, and he knew they wouldn't hesitate to lash out. Listen, we just need answers. Sarah shouted, her voice finding courage amidst the chaos. We can. A harsh scream cut her off, piercing through the tension. It was the woman. Something deep within Alex snapped. Run! He shouted, adrenaline flooding through every limb. They moved then, bolting in the opposite direction, hearts pounding in time. But the darkness seemed to close in as more footsteps echoed behind them, heavier and more determined. They skidded around a corner, racing down another alleyway, breathless with fear and determination. The shadows stretched and twisted around them, painting a scene of desperation and dread. We can't stop, Alex urged, glancing back. The figures loomed closer, shadows sharpening into threats. They're right behind us. Just as they turned another corner, Alex's foot caught on something, a metal grate, raised slightly. He stumbled, going down hard, gasping as the air whooshed from his lungs. Alex! Sarah cried, skidding to a halt. No time. Go! He shouted, scrambling to get back on his feet. But the heavy footsteps thundered behind him, relentless. With a surge of fierce energy, he fought through the pain and propelled himself forward, catching up to her just as they reached a fork in the path. They had to decide left or right. Each way could lead to safety or into the hands of the very darkness they were running from. What do we do? Sarah begged, her eyes wide with panic. And suddenly, a voice boomed from behind them, cutting through the night. You can't run forever. Soon, you'll know the truth behind Maddie's disappearance, and it's going to change everything. The gravity of those words hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Caught between the urgency of escape and the inescapable truth, Alex felt his pulse quicken. Would they dare make the choice that could unravel the whole dark web around them? Where were they heading next, and was it even safe? Alex's heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing the urgency of their situation. He exchanged a quick glance with Sarah, both of them on the brink of panic. Time held its breath, stretched out like an elastic band just before it snapped. Left! He shouted, breaking the silence, trusting his instincts even as doubt clawed at him. They darted that way, adrenaline fueling their legs as they pressed through the shadows. Each breath felt labored, each step a gamble against the unknown. The alley twisted and turned like a maze, darkness wrapping around them like a thick fog. Behind them, the heavy footsteps lingered, relentless, a haunting sound that plucked at the strings of their fear. Alex glanced back, just a shadow, but he could feel their presence creeping closer. Why are they after us? Sarah gasped, her voice tinged with desperation. I don't know. Alex shot back, pushing himself to run faster. He didn't finish his thought before a piercing scream shattered the night again. It was a distant echo, but it sent chills racing down his spine. Was it the woman? Was it Maddie? The sound pulled at him like a chain, urging him to rescue them both. Rounding another corner, they stumbled upon a narrow exit leading to a tangled network of streets. In the fleeting light of a flickering street lamp, Alex spotted what looked like a dilapidated warehouse. His heart sank. Should they take refuge inside? Or was it a trap? Should we go in? Sarah's voice trembled, fear bubbling just beneath the surface. Maybe, but it could be a dead end, he replied, scanning their surroundings for any kind of safety. We're not stopping until we know where Maddie is. A deep growl resonated from the darkness behind them. Without thinking, Alex gripped Sarah's arm and sprinted towards the warehouse. Bursting through the door, the chill of the inside air engulfed them, wrapping them in a shroud of uncertainty. "Hello?" he called out, his voice reverberating through the empty space. Dust danced in the thin light that filtered through broken windows. The place felt alive with echoes of its past, every creak and whisper adding to the suspense. Sarah's breath was labored, but the fear in her eyes sparked an idea. "What if they find us? We need something to protect ourselves." Scanning the area, Alex noticed a rusting toolbox in the corner. Without a word, he dashed over, prying it open. Inside, he found a heavy wrench. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. He returned to Sarah, adrenaline pumping through his veins. "Okay, let's keep moving," he whispered, glancing toward the door. The footsteps outside were growing louder, more insistent. They didn't have time to waste. "Over here," Sarah said, pointing toward a set of stairs leading to the upper level. Terror clawed at Alex's throat, but he nodded, leading the way. Each creak of the stairs beneath them amplified the tension, as if the building itself was warning them. Once at the top, they paused beneath a slant of moonlight flooding through another cracked window. Voices drifted from below, their words cloaked in shadow but laced with rage. "They can't hide forever," one of them sneered. "We'll find her. We always do." Alex's gut twisted. Maddie. They were hunting for her. What did they want? His breath hitched as he leaned closer to Sarah, tension tightening every muscle. "Can't we just call for help?" she suggested, panic rising. "No," he hissed, remembering the officer's words. They were too deep in danger. They couldn't risk it. Suddenly, the floorboards creaked beneath them, a warning. They shifted their weight, both of them realizing just how vulnerable they were. "Have you ever heard of a trapdoor?" Sarah murmured, eyes darting nervously. "I think there's one over there," Alex replied, pointing to a wooden panel on the far side of the room. But before they could reach it, a loud noise erupted from below, a smash followed immediately by the sound of heavy boots pounding the stairs. They had been found. "Sarah, we have to jump," Alex shouted, adrenaline coursing through him as he moved towards the panel, urgency overriding reason. "Are you crazy?" she gasped, panic in her eyes. "Trust me," he urged, heart racing with fear. "It's the only chance we have." With seconds to spare, broken voices echoed from below as the men outside stormed the upper level. They charged toward the panel, an explosion of shadows closing in. As they braced for the jump, a voice called from behind them, slithering through the tension. "You think you can escape? You have no idea what you're up against." In that moment, Alex knew they were facing more than just thugs. A powerful undercurrent pulled at everything they thought they knew, and the truth hung just out of reach, waiting to consume them whole. Would they plunge into the unknown, or face whatever awaited them in the shadows? The moment of choice hovered. What would they uncover as they leapt into darkness? With one final glance at Sarah, Alex took a deep breath and leapt into the darkness. The world around them blurred into a void of uncertainty as gravity pulled them down, heartbeat echoing in his ears. Falling felt like an embrace from the abyss. A sudden thud broke his descent as he landed hard on a pile of debris. Pain radiated through his ankle, he barely muffled a groan. Sarah crashed down beside him, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and disbelief. "Are you okay?" she gasped, blinking into the dim light that slanted through a now broken trapdoor above. "Yeah. I think so," Alex winced, testing his ankle. The pain shot through him, but there was no time for weakness. "We need to move." They scrambled to their feet, scanning the small room. It was a storage area filled with crates and forgotten machinery. Dust particles floated in the beam of moonlight, creating an eerie atmosphere that was both haunting and beautiful. Above them, the sounds of their pursuers thundered closer, the floor shaking with footsteps. "We have to find a way out," Sarah urged, her voice trembling, but her eyes flickered with determination. "Right," Alex nodded, pushing aside a heavy crate marked with faded letters. revealing a rusted door at the far end of the room. He reached for the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Rigorous shaking and kicking yielded nothing. "Help me," he grunted, struggling against the weight of despair. Sarah joined him, her resolve merging with his, but just as they moved together to shove against the door, a loud crash erupted from above. "They're close!" Sarah cried out, fear evident in her voice. Alex's heart raced, but there was no choice. "We push," he ordered, and with a final heave, the door swung open, revealing darkness that swallowed them whole. They entered a narrow hall, the air thick with mildew and silence. The heavy thumping of boots became muffled in the distance, but the danger was far from over. Alex grabbed Sarah's hand, and together they moved cautiously, confined by shadows that crept along the walls. "Where do you think we are?" Sarah whispered, bits of panic still eking out. "Old warehouse, maybe used to be a distribution center," Alex said, trying to ground them in logic despite his racing mind. "We just need to find a way out. We have to save Maddie before what?" The words hung heavy in the air, but he dared not finish his thought. They pressed forward, moving quickly past dusty crates and broken machinery. Just ahead, a flickering light caught his eye, and instinctively, they ducked behind a large shipping container. Alex peered around its edge. What he saw made his breath catch: a group of men gathered in a semicircle, whispering, their faces hardened by the shadows. They held something in their hands, something square that gleamed ominously in the light. "A camera?" Sarah whispered. The disbelief in her voice mirrored his own as he focused on the scene unfolding before them. "It's her, it must be," he murmured, horrified. Each flick of the camera captured something unnaturally ominous, turning the air thick with dread. His heart raced harder than before, the need to intervene burning inside him. "Wait," Sarah insisted, pulling him back into the shadows. "What if they see us? We can't just rush in. We can't just stand here either," he argued, heat rising in his chest. "We have to know what they're planning. If Maddie is still in danger." Suddenly, the men fell silent. One of them stepped back and brought the camera closer to his face, the gleam reflecting an inhuman hunger, while another raised an alarming device with a timer glimmering on its front. Alex's stomach twisted. "They're planning something big." Before he could react, one of the men glanced their way, eyes narrowing as if sensing their presence. The shift in the atmosphere was palpable. "Run!" Alex shouted, grabbing Sarah's wrist, breaking through the tension. They bolted down the hall, footfalls pounding against the wooden floor, fear driving them deeper into the unknown. They barreled through another doorway, landing in a dimly lit corridor stacked with old machinery. Every instinct told them they had to escape, but the echo of footsteps behind them was relentless. "Where do we go now?" Sarah shouted, her voice rising in desperation. "Anywhere but here," Alex replied, scanning frantically for an exit. The shadows behind them grew thicker, shadows that seemed to breathe suspense, teetering on the edge of violent revelation, but as they ran forward, something softer caught his attention, a glimmer of silver at the end of the hallway, an exit sign. Breathless, they rushed toward it, only to realize too late that the door was ajar, shifting in the wind, revealing nothing but a dark void beyond. "Do we risk it?" Sarah trembled beside him. "Yes," he replied with conviction. They could hardly look back. Tread on any hesitation might cost them everything. In a final desperate dash, they plunged through the door into the dark abyss, heart and hope colliding as they plummeted into the unknown. What awaited them on the other side? The air was thick with possibility and peril, and only fate would decide their next step. Would it lead to freedom or to something far worse? The free fall into the void felt eternal, a swirling mass of confusion and terror. As they finally hit the ground, the sound of their landing was muffled, swallowed by a thick carpet of frost. Alex's instincts kicked in, propelling him into action despite his ankle's protest. He helped Sarah to her feet, scanning the area. "Are you hurt?" he asked, urgency lacing his tone as he looked around. The dim illumination from a distant source played against the rounded, icy walls. "I'm okay, just shaken," she whispered, visibly trembling. But he could see the determination start to well up in her eyes once more. "Come on," he urged, leading them into the cavernous space. The exit sign above had disappeared, leaving just them and the dense darkness ahead. They crept forward, the air crisp and biting against their skin, an unsettling silence pressing down on them. "What if they find us?" Sarah murmured, glancing back nervously. Alex paused, drawn to a faint whistle echoing off the walls. The atmosphere was heavy, almost electric, like the stillness before a thunderstorm. He could feel danger coiling nearby, breathing down his neck. "I can't think about that now," he admitted, keeping his voice steady. "We need to find Maddie." As they ventured deeper, they discovered remnants of what looked like an abandoned lab. Tables littered with equipment, vials scattered like faded memories. This place held secrets. They both turned instinctively at a soft sound, a door creaking open further down the hall. "Did you hear that?" Alex asked, instinctively stilling his breath. "Yeah," she nodded, eyes wide. "What is going on down there?" "No idea, but we have to check it out," he said, taking a cautious step towards the door. With each inch closer, the air thickened with an ominous energy. They slipped into the adjoining room, shadows flickering against the walls, creating a dance that magnified their anxiety. Inside, it felt colder, as if the light and warmth of hope had been drained away. In one corner, a backdrop of dark curtains draped over a wooden stage, creating a chilling sense of performance. And then Alex saw a flicker of movement behind the curtains. "Hold on," he whispered, grabbing Sarah's arm gently. They edged closer to the curtain, hearts pounding in sync as he lifted it slightly, peering through the gap. The sight was surreal. A circle of hooded figures stood, but they weren't just any figures, they were the men from before. And there, tied to a chair in the middle, was Maddie. "Maddie!" Sarah gasped, but Alex quickly clamped a hand over her mouth, his heart racing. He could see her face, dazed, but alive. The men were acting out some ritualistic dance, their hands raised, chanting in a language he couldn't decipher. "What are they doing?" Sarah whispered, horror lacing her voice. "I don't know," Alex replied, his adrenaline surging. "But we can't just stand here. We need to disrupt whatever they're planning." "Are you crazy? We'll get caught," she retorted, but he could hear the urgency in her tone. She knew they had little choice. "Listen, if we don't act now, they might harm her for real," he pressed, adrenaline pushing every nerve into action. "We have to create a diversion." He spotted an old metal container at the edge of the room, filled with loose parts and discarded tools. If he could just knock it over. With clenched fists, he moved silently toward the container, praying his ankle would hold. As he nudged the edge, it teetered precariously before crashing to the floor with a thunderous clang. The chanting halted instantly, panic sweeping through the circle, faces turning sharply towards their direction. "Run!" Alex shouted, grabbing Sarah. They sprinted toward the curtain, hearts racing, danger igniting every possible escape instinct. The hooded figures were on their tail, the shadows stretching and morphing into something far more sinister. As they burst through the curtains, Maddie's terrified gaze met theirs, a moment of connection before they had to keep moving. "Help me!" she cried out, but they couldn't stop. "Just hold on," Alex yelled back, pushing through. The door that led deep into the labyrinthine structure, adrenaline pumped through him as he led Sarah down the hallway, the echoes of their pursuers gnawing at their heels. They could hear the frantic demand for them to stop, the deep, menacing threats reverberating around them. "What now?" Sarah panted, desperation creeping into her voice as they turned another corner, desperately searching for an exit. "I don't know, but we can't look back," Alex replied, scanning with wild eyes, praying for an end to this nightmare. Ahead, he spotted a faint light. "There!" he shouted, charging towards it. But as they turned the corner, Alex's heart dropped. What stood before them was another door, but this one was horrifyingly marked with a warning: danger, unauthorized personnel will be eliminated. A chill swept through him. But they had no choice. This was their only chance. Trust me. He shouted one last time before flinging the door wide open, plunging them into the heart of darkness once again. What lay inside would change everything. Would it be sanctuary or the edge of destruction? They charged ahead, unaware of the frightening truths that awaited them. The walls closed in around Alex and Sarah as they hurtled through the door. It slammed shut behind them, sealing them in an eerie, dim-lit corridor. The sound of their pursuers faded, but a strange stillness replaced it, thick and oppressive. They gasped for breath, desperately stealing moments to gain clarity. "Where the hell are we?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper, echoed by the emptiness surrounding them. I don't know, but we can't stop," Alex answered, urgency lacing his words. He could feel the weight of Maddie's life hanging by a thread, guiding his every move. They crept forward, careful and quiet. Flickering overhead lights barely illuminated grimy walls, revealing faded warning signs indicating hazardous materials. Every shadow seemed pregnant with threats, their every sound echoed doubt. "Do you think they'll find us in here?" Sarah asked, anxiety creeping back into her voice. "They have to find Maddie first," Alex replied, resolve hardening his chest. "We're close. We can't lose her again. We just can't." As they moved deeper into the corridor, it opened into a spacious room filled with strange machinery and monitors, a makeshift command center that felt out of place in the chaos. A half-open door led to another room, as hurried whispers spilled through, growing gradually louder. "This is it," Alex whispered, adrenaline surging. They exchanged a nod, their resolve unyielding. Slowly, they stepped toward the door, hearts hammering in sync. With a cautious push, they peeked inside. What they saw was chilling. Several figures clad in black overcoats surrounded a table adorned with machinery, monitors flickering ominously. In the center, Maddie was restrained, and fear shot through Alex like ice. She appeared frightened but alive. "No!" Sarah exclaimed, just above a whisper. Alex clenched his fists, a surge of adrenaline propelling him forward. But Sarah held him back, her expression wide-eyed with understanding. "They're armed. We can't just charge in." "Then what?" "We don't have time." Alex shot back, scanning the room frantically. "What if they hurt her?" "Distract them," Sarah urged, her gaze darting across the room. "We'll find something." They searched hurriedly until Alex spotted a metal crate filled with heavy tools. He grabbed a wrench and turned back to Sarah, who was already crouched near a loose pipe protruding from the wall. "If I create a distraction, you can slip in and get her." "Are you sure about this?" Sarah questioned, heart pounding. "No time to think. Do it." Before he could doubt his choice, Alex hurled the wrench down the corridor. It clanked loudly against the metal floor. "Huh!" One of the figures turned, eyebrows furrowing, eyes narrowing. "Now!" Sarah yelled, bolting toward the door with newfound courage. With instinct propelling him forward, Alex darted in behind her. They flew toward Maddie, whose eyes lit up with hope. "Stay calm, Maddie. We're getting you out," Alex shouted, rushing to the bindings. But the figures were already moving. They rushed towards them, chaos igniting. "Stop. You can't take her," one figure yelled, drawing a weapon. A deafening crack echoed as the shot rang out. Alex felt time freeze. He didn't know if it was meant for him or Maddie. In a flash, Sarah pushed herself in front of him, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Run." Maddie's terrified eyes were locked on the scene unfolding before her as Alex grabbed her hand. "Go!" he shouted, pulling her with them. They sprinted toward the exit, but shadows surged behind them, powerful and relentless. The echo of their heavy footsteps crashed painfully against their ears. "Over there!" Maddie pointed to a narrow side door, her voice steady despite the terror in her eyes. With no time to waste, they barreled through it, emerging in an expansive courtyard, moonlight flooding their pathway. But freedom was still a haunting distance away, they could hear voices chasing them down. "Keep moving," Alex urged, sprinting with all his might. As they ran, Maddie stumbled slightly, her tiny frame exhausted but resilient. I can't just a little farther. Hold on," Sarah shouted, lengthening her pace beside Maddie. The night air felt electric with hope and fear, but they needed to reach the gate ahead of them. Freedom lay just beyond those steel bars. They pushed forward, determination ignited in every step. It took everything they had, but they reached the gate. Alex pulled at it desperately, it creaked but held firm. "Come on. We're almost there." With frantic hands, they forced it open. Just as the gate swung wide, a loud shout erupted behind them. "Stop!" The voice cut like a knife, and they all hesitated, turning as shadows loomed closer. "Run!" Alex bellowed, tightening his grip on Maddie's hand, propelling them through the opening. They stumbled onto the street outside, gasps of the open air filling their lungs. The echoes of danger were still behind them, terrifyingly close. They dashed into the shadows of the nearby buildings, knowing they had only moments before they were pursued again. "This way," Alex urged, leading them into an alley. Maddie's little face broke into a mix of confusion and hope. "Is it really you?" she whispered, blinking tears away. "It's us, Maddie. We're here." "You're safe now," Sarah said, breathing heavily, her eyes darting in every direction for danger, trying to calm the storm that threatened their desperate escape. They turned, weaving through dark streets, hearts pounding louder than the footsteps behind. They were a trio, linked by courage and resilience. They had found each other, even when darkness threatened to take everything once more. As the sirens of police vehicles finally pierced the air, chasing through the chaos, fear began to lift like morning fog. "We did it," Alex whispered as a taut thread of hope began to blossom against the dark backdrop of the night. Sarah and Maddie stayed close, their bodies entwined for protection, and then, just like that, sirens drew near, urgency pulsing through the night as the figures of responders blurred into view, a seeming beacon breaking through the darkness. Yet, as they burst into the open arms of safety, Alex couldn't shake a feeling that shadows still lurked beyond. He wanted to believe they'd found freedom, wanted to unite family and love once more. But with everything they had faced, he couldn't escape the lingering feeling that the battle was far from over. "Stay close, Maddie. We'll keep you safe," he declared, glancing warily around as the authorities approached, knowing they had survived this moment but unsure what lay ahead. Fate had given them a chance, and with it, hope surged once more. They would stand together, no matter the shadows that lurked beyond the light, for the love they shared would light the way home. And now, listen up, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, so we can keep bringing you these gripping tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What would you have done? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters more than you think. Don't just watch, help us grow this incredible community.